Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to take the bearings out of a wheel hub on a Victory motorcycle. Showing you this way without the whole wheel, just because we have this apart, it's easier to kind of show you close-ups here without the whole wheel, but any Victory wheel is basically the same. What you're going to need is a couple tools to do this. The first tool is a seal puller, and what this does is it hooks in there and pulls the seal. You can do the same thing with a screwdriver, except a lot of times when you try to get this seal out, you'll bend the seal and you ruin it. With a seal puller, it's a little bit easier to do it. The other thing is a pair of internal snap ring pliers. There's a snap ring in there and you have to use these. Again, you can kind of do it with a screwdriver, but it's really not worth it. Just get a pair of these at Harbor Freight or something. They're cheap at any parts store. You have that. And the last thing is an internal bearing puller. And what this does, you put this inside the wheel. This goes inside the hub, and what it does is you tighten this up and it expands and it grabs on the bearing and then you pull it out. It has a slide hammer on it. Okay, so you pull it out with the slide hammer. Now this is a little bigger. This is something we made, but Harbor Freight offers one that works real well. I'm going to kind of show you how you can actually almost do this without the slide hammer. It's not real easy, so if you do try to do it and you plan on doing it ever again, just go get the slide hammer. I think they run about 60 bucks at Harbor Freight. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get the seal out on both sides. So all you do is you just hook this in there and just kind of pry it, and the seal pops right out. Okay, real easy, and it doesn't hurt the seal. Spin it around, do the same thing. And if you see on the back of the seal, it's hard to tell, but down in there is a little spring. If this surface right here gets kinked or twisted, or that spring gets goofed up, you need to put a new seal in. Because what happens is, when this is in the wheel and this hooks, depending where you hook underneath there, you can screw that up. So just be real careful when you do that. So now, inside here, you can see the snap ring. This is called an internal snap ring right here. These two little eyelets. You have to take that snap ring out or the bearing won't come out. And a lot of guys will start pounding and pushing. This side doesn't have one. So they start pounding in that and they don't realize that snap ring's in there and they screw everything up. So all you do, you just put your pliers in there in the little holes. And you squeeze it together. And be very careful. This thing can shoot across the garage because it's under pressure. And you just pull that snap ring out. So you just do that. Now, the bearings are ready to come out. You have one on each side, like I said. Now, I'm going to show you a trick to do this. And I'm going to show you the way everybody does this. You got guys that say they take a punch and they try to pound the bearing out through the other side. Yeah, I've never really seen that work that great, and you usually screw stuff up. So what you do is you put this bearing puller in there, okay, and then you tighten it up. Now, it's in there, okay? You can't pull it out. And I'll try to show you with knocking it what happens. You do this action like this, and you try to pull that bearing out. What's going to happen is you're going to pull, it's going to keep popping out on you. This is going to keep coming out. You're going to have to keep putting it back in. You're going to keep pulling until your arm goes numb, because these things are really, really hard to get out of there. I've never had one work real easy until I show you the next trick. Okay, so let's just say we stop at that point. We don't try to pull that bearing out. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take yourself, make some sort of a hook, anything, a bolt that you can screw in here, something long, so that you can screw it in here and have sort of a handle. Just get a real long, like I say, a real long bolt, just something that you can hold on to. You're going to want to screw that in, and then take this thing and put it in the oven, and put it in the oven at about 350 degrees for, say a half hour or so, give or take. You want this thing to be nice and hot. I'm going to go do that, and when I come back, I'm going to show you how to take the bearings out. Okay, we just got our hub out of the oven. Here's the little hook I made, to hold on to it. So it is really hot right now. It's probably 350, 400 degrees. So what you're going to do, you're going to stick your puller in there. Tighten up the expander. And just do it. And I'm not pulling very hard at all. I'm doing it real easy. You can see the bearing comes right out. And actually, if you can see, the other bearing fell out of the back just doing that. Okay? So that's how easy this is to do. If you heat it up first. If you don't heat it up, you're going to keep trying, and then you're going to come watch my video and you're going to say, damn, I wish I did it that way. So anyhow, the other bearing just fell right out. This is a crush tube. This is called a crush tube. This keeps proper spacing with your bearings. You want to make sure that when you do this, you put this stuff all in a sandwich bag. If you're doing both hubs, you want to make sure you put that stuff all in a sandwich bag. You don't want to put this crush tube in the other wheel. They're set and they're made specifically for a wheel. So that's basically all there is to it. When you go to put stuff back together, I'll show you that. But for the most part, all you do is you heat the hub again. You put the bearings in the refrigerator so the bearings are nice and cold. When the hub's hot, what we're basically doing, it's just simple physics. The hub is hot, so it expands and it makes the bearing a looser fit, so it falls out. So that's all we did. It's as simple as that. So you can see how the bearing's out, both ends. It was that easy. So if you follow that step, you won't have any problem. Okay, so we have the hub, and it's nice and hot right now. You can see I just got done powder coating it red, so the hub's nice and hot. So I'm going to try to show you. I'm going to hook this hook back in so I can move this thing around. And I'm going to show you, there's no magic to this, there's no nothing. Here's the bearing. I don't know if you can see it. It's nice and frosty because it's frozen. We're just going to put it right in there. Just kind of tap it a little bit. You can see it goes right down in. Now we also offer a bearing installer tool that works real well. Put it in there. Just tap it down. Actually, that bearing's coming back out because it's so big. We're just going to put the snap ring back on. Put your pliers and be careful, like I said, because this thing is pretty spring loaded. Put it in there, and if you can see, you want to make sure that it snaps down in that groove. If the bearing's up too high, then the snap ring won't go in, so make sure it snaps in that groove. The other thing is we do this side first, so when we flip it over and we push the bearing in, it doesn't push any of this out. The snap ring actually helps hold it. So to do this, I kind of unscrew my little handle here. And I'll try to do this where you can see this. It's just so darn hot. Put that right in there, and you can see it just goes right in. Easy as pie. Now, again, I'll show you this because you can see I didn't put the crush tube in, just so you can see how that makes a big difference when the bearings are frozen. Get my handle in here. But that'll come right back out. It comes right back out. Okay? So make sure you put your crush tube in. Now the bearing's going to be hot, so it's going to go in a little bit tighter right now. Kind of tap it. The installer on. And that's it. Now, you don't want to put the seals in quite yet because this thing is still so hot. You don't want to get those seals too hot and melt them. So what we do is we let this cool down, and then we'll come back and show you how to put the seals in. Okay, so this thing's nice and cool now. You can handle it pretty easy. The one thing I wanted to tell you was when you put this bearing in that crush tube in there, you want to make sure you look down through there and the crush tube isn't offset. If it's offset and you don't notice it, you're going to have a hard time putting the wheel back on. You're going to be putting the axle through and it's not going to fit. You're going to wonder what in the world's going on. So when you look down through there, make sure that crush tube inside is centered with that. We have a stock axle that we use and we put in there. You could just kind of get it in there and make sure it drops down through on both sides, and then you know that it's going, you can see it goes all the way in, that it's lined up. So that's just something, just a little tip you want to make sure you do. Okay, so all you got to do to put the seals back in is just kind of set them in there. And you can almost do this with your fingers. Just get them in there evenly. Just press them in. The other thing you can use is that bearing installer if you had that, and you just want to tap it. You just want to kind of get the seal sitting on there evenly. You don't want to have one side up higher or lower than the other. And you just do the same thing on the other side. And again, like I say, you can almost push that in with your hand. If you have a block of wood, you can set a block of wood across there and just get it so it sits pretty much flush with the top surface right here. That's how you want it to go. It's just flush with that. That's basically all there is to changing the wheel bearings. It's not that big a deal. If you heat it up, that's going to save you a ton of time like I showed you. And again, if you're putting new bearings in or you're going to reuse your old ones, you know, just check them, make sure everything's clean when you spin the bearing, make sure there's no rough spots. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching.